Very good. And we have another person joining. This is great. So perhaps, where is joining? Here we go. Hello, Terry.
Hello.
Wonderful to have you with us.
Yes.
So yeah, before we start, I have to let you know that David is traveling, so I will be hosting this session by myself with you. I hope this doesn't disappoint you too much, and that I can also help you answer the questions that you may have regarding the design studio.
Great.
Perhaps just by way of starting, shall we just maybe just briefly check in, and maybe if you want, you can share a little bit about what draws you to this call and what question you might have regarding this new offer by the Moment Institute.
Well, I'll jump in. I'm Gordon. Hello, everybody. I've known David for a couple of years now. We're both part of the Graduate School Alliance for Education Coaching. And we collaborated on some projects last year and got very excited about the interfaces we see between our organizations. And so I recently left a university to start a new program, and we're looking at how to design a more creative coaching model that will really focus on development in the way that David's talking about, at the same time, highly prioritize relationship and the quality of the being between coach and client, and how that is a crucible for a lot of the work that happens. And my partners in this is TJ Marr and Alex Baralek. Alex has been at one of the earlier of these programs, and the three of us are working together to craft this new program, really. And so, and we thought that the partnership with David might be really helpful. So that's what brought us here.
That's wonderful, wonderful to hear. Who would like to go next?
I guess I can. So my partner Maura and I are here. We're interested in developing. We're just within the past year have certified as coaching supervisors with Oxford Brookes, and we found that a unique program. Very it offered the academic rigor that we were seeking, and not as much of the relationship aspect that we want to build. And we're wanting to start, we don't know if it's been done before, but a co-supervised group supervision space. And we're wanting to create a different model for it. And was struck by the 5 maturities, and don't know if that maybe is a piece of this or not. We don't know, but here to find out more whether the design studio might be a great incubation space, if you will, with other people who are interested in a different kind of coaching. So, and I don't pretend to speak for Maura, so you'll still hear from her, I'm sure.
I'll jump in, Julie. Thank you. Starting us off from Maura, as Julie says. Julie and I are very good friends, business partners. I was introduced to the narrative model of coaching through Julie, who has been through this program with David and is a seasoned practitioner in that. My curiosity was piqued to when I came across the 5 maturities report, and knowing Julie's interest, it was not coincidental. It was very synchronous, I suppose, that Julie then wrote me saying, hey, this is coming up. Do we want to find out more about what this design studio will entail? So that's why I'm here.
Wonderful, Maura. Thank you both.
I can jump in. So I'm kind of coming to this with a bit more of a blind eye and open heart. Gordon and who's on the call, who just talked, him and Alex have a lot more experience with David and his work, but their passion and how they speak about David really makes me excited to see what, how this can blend. And like we said, we're building something that is pretty similar in terms of philosophy around what he's doing. And I'm just really curious to see. I'm going to ask a couple questions along the way, and I'm curious to hear what other people have to say and what they're working on as well. Really curious about that. And I just see this as an opportunity, kind of for what it is, right? To build something really beautiful together and see how we might be able to sharpen each other's swords. So I'm curious about that.
Thank you, TJ. And welcome to Kezia, who has joined us in the meantime.
Hello. Nice to see everyone.
Yeah, we're just checking in and asking, what people are bringing to this call and what they're curious about.
Yeah, just generally curious. So I am not exactly sure what. I went through my old notes, and I'm still not exactly sure what the shape of this is. But sometimes it seems like maybe that's part of it's a co-creation process. So thought I'd show up and see.
Great. Okay. Who would like to go next?
I'll jump in. For starters, I apologize for any noise in the background. I'm in a coffee shop. But I confess, and I don't want to disappoint any of you, but I just learned about what the design studio was like an hour ago. So I have no idea what exactly it is that I'm walking into. I just saw that I could sign up for the link on the narrative coaching program. But in any case, I'm starting a lot of new projects in my life recently. I'm paradoxically, a very opinionated person with a Buddhist and Taoist background. And I found it so encouraging to see that in my work through the narrative coaching program, that so many of David's ideas that center around working with people's identity really mirror a lot of my own ideas and a lot of things that I've been thinking about for a long time now. And so I'm excited to be here, and I'm walking into this with an open mind, and I have no idea what's going to happen.
Wonderful. Me neither. That's great. Who would like to go next?
I can jump in. I am have been through the narrative coaching program, and actually on a second round this here in 2025. So it's I do love David's work and find it really helpful for me with my coaching practice and what I'm working on and in life as well as in work. And I'm at a stage where I've been playing around with some ideas around bringing more creativity into my work, and yet I'm pretty busy. So combination of being in the other program, which would conclude around the same time, and then also just some life events that keep popping up every time I think I'm going to have some open space to kind of recreate things. So I want to understand a little bit more about the commitments and how you see the flow, and also just wanted to hear from other people who are here and who are interested in this space. And there's a part of me that's intrigued to join, even if I don't bring as much of what I'm working on, just because I love to be in spaces like this.
Thank you, Terry. Would you like to go next, Anna?
Hi. Yeah. Sorry, I'm like still trying to figure out my phone, and like I keep pressing different buttons. So, hi from Spain, and I'm actually happy that some of you mentioned that you haven't really, you don't really know what you're walking into, because that's exactly my case. But I haven't done any of the programs with coaching, so that was kind of like my idea to sign up for one of the programs, but none is open right now. And I saw this coming up, so I was like, I have a good history of like raising things, and the serendipity takes me from there. I'm not even a coach, but what I've heard, like a lot of things that David talks about, and just the container of coaching never really set that well with me. So I'm like looking for something, you know, I'm trying to figure out a new container, something that maybe hasn't been done yet. And just the idea of like design studio and just like openness to it, I was like, okay, I'll raise my hand again. We'll see what happens. So
I love it, Anna. Thank you for sharing.
I think that leaves me. So first, I'm from Ohio in the United States. And the first thing I'd just like to say is I am really, really loving the energy that I'm feeling in this room today. Just so thank you for all that you are bringing to that. I've done a few of David's programs. I did the narrative coaching first after listening to a presentation of his back in 22, and then reading the book, and then doing narrative coaching. I did the ID Way program, which was another one of his flagship ones. And then last year, did the little intro to the 5 maturities called Lighten Your Load. And then I did the 6-month one, which was the Guiding Lights. And so I just, all of his stuff resonates with me pretty deeply. I'm in the process of trying to put together not so much a coaching practice, though I do want to do some of that, but more of a self-development kind of community. I was a pastor for many years, and so I'd like to kind of harness some of those skills that I use, but in a non-religious context, since I've returned the faith at this point in my life. But there's some elements there of personal development that I think I could shift that might be interesting. So I'm exploring that possibility to see whether I can pull something off on my own. And I formed a little community at David's suggestion within the Moment Institute of other folks that are just trying to get their own kind of coaching practice going. And so we're just crowdsourcing together, and that's been very fulfilling as well. And enjoy working with Christopher and David. Maybe you. I plan to be in the design. I've actually made the decision, so I plan to be in the program. So that's the other reason I'm excited, because I'm interested to see who else might potentially be there to share that space with.
Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing all of this. I think this group is kind of representative of what the design studio is about. There is, what we are advocating for is diversity, and that you can bring your unique questions or challenges of the project to the space and see how it can unfold in ways, because you're part of this environment, enabling environment. One of the reasons I believe why it is sometimes a little bit difficult to exactly name what the outcome or the design of the design studio would be is because you can make it as much as your own as you want to be. Obviously, we have certain structures and processes in place. We are going to introduce you to a number of models and tools and frameworks, but then we would leave you to reflect on and work with and perhaps grapple with those things and see how they make sense and can be applied or changed or modified given what you're working on. So what it is that you're working on can be both a personal question, something that may relate to your own growth and development. We have, for example, someone who is joining the design studio because she's moving to another state and is asking questions: how is this going to impact the relationships with the clients I have? What kind of clients am I now wanting to look forward to? What does it mean for my practice as a whole, as a human being growing and adapting to these changing circumstances in these changing times? Others like Gordon and TJ, you may have something quite specific that you want to work on, develop, and apply in your university context. We have someone else joining the studio who is also working on a specific tool or process he's wanting to introduce to his university context. So depending on where you are along your own project life cycle, or if it's personal or more professional, that does not really matter. It will, however, shape and color, if you will, the experience that you will have in the design studio. So one of the elements that we really want to foster as much as we can is that we shift our focus a little bit away from traditional teaching So some, if not many of you, have read about David's books or materials or joined courses. So we will make the materials available for you so that you can return to those in case you want a refresher, but really focus more of our attention to what it means for you to apply it. And so depending where you are, this might also look different. But we want to focus more on kind of these conversations among ourselves, introduce perhaps some lenses and frameworks for you to see how they fit or not fit, and then give the opportunity to experiment with it and see how this is shaping the project that you have. And so we want to do this along cycles. So we will start the first cycle by giving all of you the opportunity to sit yourself in the current project you're working with. Your current as-is understanding, your current as-is goals and desired outcomes and stakeholders, whatever it is that's relevant for you. And then invite you on a journey where you begin to go a little bit deeper, to deconstruct or recombine some of those elements based on the conversations that you have, the materials that you're reflecting on, and then see how this over time may take a different shape in your understanding, your presence, your engagement with partners, and then how that is also perhaps changing the design of the project itself. And so by the end of the program, we hope that per each cycle you document for yourself where you currently are, and then by the end of it, see how you have progressed and have a clear understanding what it is that you want to do next beyond the program, because this is a 5 months program. We don't expect that in those 5 months, whatever it is that you're working on is going to be complete or finished or finalized, but this is more of an incubator, if you will, kind of an ecosystem for you to get the nourishment, the support, the input, and the scaffolding for you to see what's next. So I pause here and see how is this landing with you, if at all.
I have a question. So it's landing quite well, but will it be offered? Is this something I'm still in the narrative coaching program right now? And I've coached for a long time, so I have a lot of things that are very interesting, but I'm also mindful of like how many things I can layer on. Is this something that will be then offered again in the spring?
Yeah.
Like, is it intended to be an ongoing, just
Yeah, so our current thinking is that, yes, this is our pilot. So we are ID weighing our way through this ourselves. And I guess that contributes a little bit to the fuzziness of what this is, because we don't really know it ourselves. And I mean that in the best sense, because it is in a way a co-creative process with all of you. And depending on who you are and what you bring and how that kind of shapes the colors on our palette, using the artist language here, it is going to shape the studio itself and vice versa. So yes, to answer your question, we plan to offer the program again next year, potentially in a slightly different shape based on what we're learning, and perhaps can be longer, it can be shorter. That is something we don't really know. But if I may add just one point to what you just said, this program is not designed necessarily for you to build more stuff onto the stuff that you have already accumulated. It is rather seeing for yourself how those things that you have learned are shaping the way how you engage in your work, and see and explore how else you might see it to expand your space of possibilities, to have more agility to respond to what's actually happening in the client space. So by that, yes, you will learn something more, but the idea is more that you begin to integrate what you already know with the new lenses and frameworks so that it feels more coherent for yourself and the client, if that makes any sense. So particularly since you mentioned you have already worked extensively in the coaching space, you may have a set of default models or frameworks that you rely on certain circumstances, and that can be very, very helpful, but perhaps in some other contexts they may not, depending. So the idea is for you, in the first cycle, to really become aware and present to your default mechanics and see what spaces it opens, but how else you might open the space, and see how to approach it slightly different, so that perhaps if a client comes from a different angle, you might be more able to hold that, even if paradoxical or not conforming to the model that you usually do, and find new responses, and by that also deepen the relationship with your client, so that they don't feel like they're being kind of squished through a framework, or that they have the opportunity to see their approach through a different lens as well. If that is very cryptic, then please let me know. I'm happy to expand that.
Christopher,
Yeah,
how
makes perfect sense.
Oh, thanks.
may I ask another question, Christopher? How
Yes,
many
please.
are you anticipating joining this design studio space this first round? And I understand there's going to be a morning and an afternoon offering. Is that so?
Yes.
How many might we be?
Yeah. So think of it something between a sextet and a chamber orchestra.
Okay.
And I cannot really, so if all of you joined, I would be delighted. If it was up to me, I think a great size would be between 10 to 15 people, because it would allow for the intimacy to share what you're working on, but also ensure diversity of thought and background. And the other point that you've just raised is, yes, so we are going to offer, unless the group is really, really small, we're wanting to offer this program in 2 different time zones, so that we have someone registered or interested who lives in Japan. We have someone who's joining from Australia. We have people who live in the US. So we want to accommodate for those different time zones, making sure that they can fit it well into their daily calendar without needing to get up at 4 a.m. in the morning. That wouldn't be conducive. So that's the reason. And then as another element, we are wanting to learn a little bit more about the project that you will be bringing, and then see how we can best pair you up with other folks in the program that's not just aligning with the time zone as one key aspect, but also see how we can pair you up with people who share a similar interest, share a similar pain points, share something where you might support each other really, really well. So we have just introduced this to the space that after the first cycle, we want to offer an additional session for you where you can bring and explore your project at more depth. And based on what we're hearing, then we can pair you up, then rather than doing this before. Before it was just time zones, and now we want to change that a little bit as well. Yeah, does that answer your question, Julie?
Yes, I think so. So what I'm hearing in that response is you don't already have a full slate, that you are still
Yes.
accepting applications.
Yeah, that's fair to say, yes.
And that it won't be a mega class of 50 people. It's going to be a space where we can actually connect and do some work in the space. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And something that we have noticed in general that, and we don't really know exactly why that is, but some of David's programs have run very successfully over many years. And since the last US elections, there seemed to be a kind of, people are kind of wondering what's next for them. And people may feel hesitant to subscribe to a program that is 9 months long. And so we're wanting to adopt and adapt to this, and rather create more intimate spaces, safe, intimate spaces, rather than throwing new materials at you. So as we all, of course, welcome everyone who wants to join, I see a lot of value in having these smaller spaces because it can allow for a deeper conversation to take place. So if we were 10, 15 people, I think that would be a great group.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Christopher, thank you. I'd like to jump in here too at this point. First of all, I'm just kind of listening to where the group is. I'm very interested in, Julie, what you had to say, and Mara, about your background with Oxford Brooks, and Bakirova, I guess that's how she pronounces the name. Tatiana, in any case.
Tatiana Bachkova, yes.
I know her work very well, and I'm very intrigued. And I thought very interesting that you said that there wasn't as much relational focus as you would like to see. And that's precisely what we're trying to develop more fully. So actually, what I'm looking at is where are the synergies here. And we're looking at reconfiguring the way we do coach education, which would include supervision and the development of the coach. And of course, her work has been very featured on that, but we're bringing a more relational context to it. So I'm very interested in that synergy. I thought that was interesting.
And Maura and I are also coach educators. I teach in 2 different programs, and Maura coaches is a mentor coach with UBC.
Right.
But that said, I didn't mean to disparage Tatiana's work at all. She is the most lovely.
Oh, no, I'm totally with you. I love her work, and I have a critique of it as well.
It was, I think it had more to do with our own beliefs around pedagogy and how to create that space in the learning environment. And I think that they're new to doing this work online. And that actually impacted, once we got face to face with her in tutorials, it was completely relational, but it was the space together. Maura, do you want to add anything to that?
I think that's it, Julie. I had another question for Christopher though, and that is, after the first cycle, you will be pairing people up, and the way I understand program is currently structured, so there will be twice a month at the beginning and the end. We come together as a big group, and then in between we get together with our peer pods. Am I describing this accurately for now? And so that would depend on then us aligning our time zones with each other, the way it is right now at Gordon and TJ. Where are you guys based?
We're in New York.
In New York. But if it was someone in Japan or Australia, I know that was one of the challenges when we worked with Tatiana's, when we did the coaching supervision, because we were up like at 1 o'clock in the morning trying to stay awake to be attentive, and that was a challenge for me. So just wondering about, will that be taken into account to the best of your ability when you're pairing us up?
Yes.
We're on the West Coast, so of Canada.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Maura, I think this is a very a good question. So first of all, yes, you described the process very accurately. I would add, the cycle starts with what we call an immersion session. And this is basically the foundational session per each cycle, which is going to be led by David. So there you're going to be introduced to the ID way methodologies and frameworks, the philosophical underpinnings. It lays the groundwork for you for these cycles. Then you will have what we call a stretch assignment. This is a personal assignment that you can do or read or change and adapt to your needs and apply in your given context. Then you also have these pod meetings where we will also provide you with an exercise that builds on the immersion session. And again, you can see and adapt it whatever the group feels most helpful. And then by the end of the cycle, we come together where basically the focus then is here for you to share what you have discovered and what you have applied and experimented and experienced with in your given context, and share that to kind of integrate your learning. So this happens in a month's time. So you would be engaged on a weekly matter, on a weekly basis along those 4 elements. And so for the pod exercises, when you enroll, maybe Ken probably knows how that works because he has gone through those programs, and Terry as well. You would be given a kind of a form where you list the preferred time zones you're able to work. And so this is going to provide us with a foundation to see who is all ET time zone, or who is in Japan and who is in Australia, as some reference, so that we avoid pairing up in ways that would be impossible for you to maintain. So we don't want anyone to get up at 3 a.m. in the morning. Yeah. But what we also try to do for the first time this time is that we do not just want to pair people along time zones, but also learn a little bit if perhaps there are some elements where you can support each other. And so if we are lucky, all this comes together. And even if you are paired in a larger pod, this does not prevent you from reaching out to anyone else in the cohort. Actually, it is something that I would highly encourage. And if you feel that the person in Japan has something really meaningful that you can learn and collaborate with, then you can set it up in your own way along a time zone that works best for you. We would not be providing you with those structures because for some it's helpful and for others it may not.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe Kent, you want to share your experience working in pods?
Yeah, well, the other thing that came to mind as you were sharing is I think now I've been at, this is at least the third, if not the fourth Q&A that I've been a part of in relation to Design Studio, and I had already decided to do it from get-go. But even the Q&As, I learn at every step something more, and sometimes it's because of something Chris or David share, and then also sometimes it's from the groups, just being a part of the group. So I already feel, I was debating whether to join today, and then I'm like, absolutely, you know what I mean? Because there's so much more. So to Christopher's point in terms of encouraging reaching out in addition to whatever is structured, I can't support that. I can't encourage that enough because there's just so much, especially for a more intimate size group, right? To be able to just take advantage of that. And I personally, I mean, everybody's got their own preferences, but I love being in on the ground floor of things. I love being in when things are not yet figured out and being able to help shape that in some way. I think I was born a guinea pig in another life. Yeah, I'm glad to be a part. Yeah, the pods, there's always great structure there. I would say in my experience with the pods, it always depends who you're potted with, right? And where they're at in their life and what they're going through and what I'm going through and all of that. But I was in one situation where there was a challenging person, a very lovable but challenging person. And that was actually, even though it was a pain in many ways, it was like excellent, because that was like, that's what this work is all about, right? I mean, if life were perfect, we wouldn't need courses from David. So the joy is finding out how to work in those situations that really press us a little bit more, because we end up learning more about ourselves in the process, which is where the real gold is found. So yeah, I'm a big fan.
And Terry, would you like to add something to this? You're also a seasoned practitioner in the IDs and the
I have one pod that I participated in, and we're still meeting monthly. We've just continued because it was just a way to stay connected to David's work and a way to stay connected to each other. And that was actually a smaller pod. It was it turned out to only be 3 of us. So it was actually quite flexible because we weren't dependent on a certain day of the week. If somebody had something, we'd just see if we could shift it a little. A part of a pod now that I think is more like 6 or 7 people, and it requires us to pretty much stay on schedule because some people are coming and going, but we do that, and whoever shows up, it's just a great experience. We have and again, always feel supported by the structure. So there's something that's kind of a focus or something to do in that pod session. And there have been a few times where something more pressing, we kind of adjusted or modified a little bit. But I've learned as much in the pods by watching other people and hearing from other people as I have from the experience myself of either being coached or bringing my own challenges to the situation. So it's kind of a blend of both.
Oh, thank you. Does anyone have? Yes, go for it.
Yeah, I'm curious about like how do you see us potentially working in these pods? Like I'm curious that what's your vision of this? And also when we're assigned to a pod, is that for the entire program or is this going to go through cycles as well?
So, and please, Terry and Kent, jump in. In my experience, the quality of connection that I have found in the MI space of people who have gone through David's programs for years is just extraordinary. So I would say it's characterized by a deep appreciation, a sense of safety, and a deep respect for each other's views and approaches. I personally haven't really sensed much of quick solutioning or these kind of aspects that you might find in some other programs because I would say one of the greatest things that the MI has achieved over the years is to cultivate that quality of engagement, not just in the programs, but also how the community embodies these things. So I would say this is already putting the pod experience on a pretty good level. Now, we would assume that you would stay in the same pod throughout the entire program. But again, it does not prevent you from reaching out to anyone else. And should you be so interested in, there's also no reason for you to not reach out to some other pod and see, hey, this is what I would love to do. Can I join you? We seem to be fitting a similar time zone. I don't mind getting up or doing this at 10 p.m. And I mean, it's for them to decide, but I cannot imagine any reason for them to say no, because the primary goal of this program is to come together, is to have these conversations, is to collaborate and learn. So yes, you will be staying with one and you have all the opportunities to go beyond.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Sure.
One thing, Christopher, if it's okay. One thing that I think will be different with this experience is by design, no pun intended, we use more of our own agency, more of our own. So this is I'm approaching this with a little bit more of a self-directed learning approach, whereas in the other programs, it was all about me receiving and practicing what I'm being taught. Where here I see a little bit more of a blend. There's going to be that dimension, but also I'm here with, in my case, something that I'd like to make some significant progress toward.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it has a little bit different, more ownership, I think, in the process than what I maybe had in the previous programs.
Yeah. Yeah. So TJ, what you're asking to experience from others is the same thing that we would like to invite you to bring to the program itself. I have noticed in some cases people asking, "Oh, do I have the right project? Do I feel is this strong enough compared to the other massive big programs that others might bring?" And our answer has always been the case. It doesn't really matter as long as it is relevant for you, because the thresholds that you're facing, the questions that you're asking to deepen your awareness and practice, whatever it is, can be very beneficial. Never mind how scale at what scale you work on. And so it might be that perhaps you might be paired with someone who works on a very different project, And initially you might think, oh, damn, I would have loved to work with Steve, who is doing something very similar. Well, go for it and reach out to Steve. And perhaps because of the difference in the project and scope and scale, there might be something to discover that you may not be aware of yet, in both cases, in both directions.
I see. Yeah, thanks for clearing that up, both of you. It reminds me of what Kent said before about like in case I'm linked with someone that, we maybe not jive, like, oh, this is a great opportunity. Let's see what might become of this and how I might be challenged by this. And that's what this work is about. So, and I also appreciate what you said too, that the MI has created this environment for where the peer pods are going to be really useful. And so, yeah, I like that. And I appreciate the invitation to kind of make this more self-led, and I resonate with that philosophy.
Oh, that's awesome. And should, but for any reason, something really not work, then there's always ways to, to see what else we can do. But one of the reasons why we designed it this way is also because very often in client relationships, you cannot really choose with whom you're working with. You cannot really change the character of your client. So sometimes you may think, oh, darn, I really would have liked to have that person be more like, ABC. And yet here you are needing to adapt and adjust and see what else is possible here, without saying yes to everything or saying, no, I don't do it at all. This is kind of expanding the space of possibilities in those moments. So I don't know, maybe at the end we realize maybe we should just pair you up along time zones and see what happens. We don't know, to be honest. Yeah. How's all that landing, Anna and Austin? Just checking with you.
I like everything that I'm hearing, and I think that it lands at the perfect time for me. However, I think I'd like to focus the totality of my attention on the narrative coaching program and learning those concepts before I jump and multitask into something else. But I'm walking away from this and logging in my brain so that I can potentially sign up for a future course.
Yeah, so we plan to run the NC program again next year, and it provides a fantastic opportunity to really dive into the narrative coaching model and practices. And I would say that the design studio, is almost like a program for those who have grappled with NC or who have grappled with ID and see how they can bring these different things together that makes sense and that feels more coherent. So go for it. I think that's a good choice. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, and if I can jump in as well, I'm like listening and loving what I'm hearing so far, and I love to put my room with like smarter people and more experienced people than me. But I wonder if someone like me is the right fit, because I don't really this. I do have plenty of different ideas that don't really fit anywhere else. So yeah, I just wonder if like I am the right person for the program, or shall I just like go through other programs first, wait my turn, and then join? Because this is kind of like the reverse of what I'm hearing from other people, right? So like they've done this and joining this, whereas I'm trying to kind of like go from the other end.
Well, I have certainly a response to it, but I just want to check if, our other seasoned MI practitioners such as Terry or Kent would like to respond, and then I can build on it.
It's interesting. I'm curious what you're bringing up. One of the folks that are going to be coming, I believe she's signing up, is in the performance arts arena. And she has had some experience with the programs before, so she is bringing that, but comes at all of this from a really different, like what she's creating is a really different way of bringing some of this to life in the world. And so So I just wanted to offer that because like one of the things I've loved about these programs is that you have people who are finding their way to the kind of idea of how do we coexist together. It's not just coaching, and it's not just teams, and it's not just group work. It's like how we do that together in a way that is more expansive versus closing down, which seems as though the way the world is working today. So and I love that it is in all these different walks of life. I think in these programs, people come who are artists and people come who are professionals, and we just kind of all get the chance to mix together.
Right.
Are you bringing like what are you bringing?
I bring it. Yeah, that is a good question. I mean, I still want to be me when I grow up. It's been 45 years since. So.
Good work.
I've been a photographer for the past 15 years, and over the last 3 or 4, I've been like trying to kind of like find a different modality for myself. So I've done a bunch of different projects from digital well-being certification to neuroscience of change from Coaches Rising and stuff like that. But I'm still looking for something that kind of like blends different modalities. And yeah, I haven't really like found anything just yet. And I have I have some ideas. It's really briefly on this within the yes, but I like a very adventurous mindset. I would like I'm like looking for a shift in perspective in also in coaching, kind of just something more open, something that takes us away from fear towards curiosity, and like where I'm the ideas I'm circling, but I still haven't found the kind of like the right container for this. So I haven't really done any one-on-one. I've been like trying to create some smaller communities. But I struggle doing that for a variety of reasons. So yeah, I guess that's kind of like what I'm bringing.
Yeah. And it sounds, I mean, Kent can and Christopher can jump in, but it feels like what's drawing you is the same thing that's drawing a lot of us, is like finding the right space where we get to bring who we are and be able to be fully that and explore in a safe space to do that, and whatever the outcome is. And I love that it's a little bit of what's in the back of my mind too, is like, is there a merger of some kind of more creative expression and helping people develop and see the world differently?
Yeah. I guess.
So 3 things come to mind just for whatever it's worth. Number 1, the narrative coaching program, in my opinion, is clearly the one that is the most focused on potentially a particular vocation, either coaching in a little different way or becoming a coach at all. Okay. The others are more about kind of how we approach life and how we show up in different ways. And one of the things that I've noticed is David, by definition, is an integrated person. He just, everything that is a part and parcel of what he has, been a part of throughout his life, just exudes from his very being. And he's been able to cultivate that formation within most of us that have been a part of his work. So in a way, it's less about the particular topic and the title of the program and more about the person, people, because Christopher fits right in there as well. He's a super compliment to Dave. And then also the community itself. And then also, where are we at in our own sense of timing in terms of our life and our own, where we're at, right? So yeah, maybe if you wanted to specifically be a narrative coach, then maybe you'd want to wait for the narrative coaching program to, hone in on that. But from what you've been sharing, it looks to me like you're more wanting to just try to pull a lot of things together, right? And I guess I'm not convinced you would go wrong in taking this route. And from a practical standpoint, I think the price point for this right now is probably the lowest it's ever going to be. Narrative coaching is going to probably stay whatever it is, right? The next version of this is probably going to be more because the experience is there and they've got the format figured out. So whatever works for you, that's what matters. But I have a hard time feeling like you'd go wrong.
Yeah, sounds like the time to jump in and see what happens.
Based on the spontaneous nature that you've presented so far, I'm like, let's go.
Have a good history of like just kind of, as I mentioned, just like jumping in without really knowing what the thing was like waiting for me, and it was great. So
and then I'll shut up. But one of David's primary images he uses very often is inviting us to go back to be the 5-year-old on skis that just does it before doing the lessons.
I like that. I like that already. Thank you so much.
And just to build on it, I had a conversation with someone who is also intending to join. And he asked, oh, I'm not sure if I have a real project. And he began to share that he is alternating between a photography project that he's working on, or how he's wanting to prepare for some ICF recertification. And by the end of the conversation, he realized that actually the invitation for this program was much larger. That is, to bring more authenticity to his work and his arts. And so he would be bringing that kind of question. And then the container, if photography or dancing or coaching or university, does not really matter, because what we invite you in this program in particular, it is also about learning and developing who you are as being with whatever it is that you're doing. So, and that is the invitation here becomes much larger, and perhaps for people who are not used to this kind of developmental work, a bit weird, because they're no longer just sitting in class and the teacher is throwing stuff and models at them, but actually inviting you to begin to grapple and work with and see what happens and observe what happens. And we hope this is why we call it a design studio. Studio is really about working and creating, putting the colors on the canvas and have it showcased to your fellow artists and have it, critiqued and praised. And then you go out into nature and you do your next sketch, and then you bring that sketch. And by the end of the day, the program, you may have a better sense of your oeuvre. I don't want to overstretch this metaphor here too much, but you get the point. And so here for you, the invitation is, what does it mean for you to step into this space with more confidence and work with whatever it is that you're having, and be surrounded by like-minded people? Because no one, I think, is going to start with a finished product or leave with a finished product.
Yeah, sounds good. I guess I'm in.
Awesome.
Sure. I have a question. I've been sort of sitting
Yes.
with the appropriateness or inappropriateness of it, and I've decided to take a slight risk and go with what might be inappropriate but interesting. Okay.
Awesome.
And what I'm curious is I've known David now and gotten to know him quite a bit in the last year or so. And what I'm seeing is that we are both looking at re-envisioning what coaching is. We're expanding beyond the conventional notion of it and really kind of not blowing it apart, but really looking beyond it to include the kinds of things like personal growth development centers, like I think, Kent, you've been talking about. So some of the other interests that some of you have been talking about are included in that. And my thought is how you envision the Moment Institute. Is it possible that the Moment Institute is actually an institute in which this constellation of innovative programs actually becomes sort of it's like a unifying center for work that each of us is doing, as opposed to we each come, we do our things, then we go off and do our thing, and David does his thing and we each do our thing? Or is there the possibility of some sort of collaborative community that we're not just developing in this design studio, but actually as an ongoing process of transformational change that we're trying to make in these different worlds. I just want to throw that out there, what your thoughts are about that.
I love this question. So while I cannot speak for David, I know that we have been discussing these questions quite extensively over the last couple of months, and we continue to have these conversations with many fellow MI practitioners, because what I see the MI, again, from my perspective, what I see the MI move towards is with a less strong focus on training and programs and a stronger focus on community and ongoing practice.
That's kind of where I'm going, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so the design studio is our first step towards that realization. Where we as teachers, or where David as teacher, I don't want to imply myself here, but where David as teacher increasingly steps back, and where we make the studio itself step in as a teacher, if you will.
Very cool. Thank you. That's exciting to me. That's very exciting.
Awesome.
I have a question as well, which maybe, I work in the business environment. I typically am working in an intersection of like working on the business and working on the people associated with the business. And I'm always like, it's not that I don't think like creative endeavor. I mean, those things are very, very important. But I'm also just wondering also, as this cohort is coming together, whether there are other people who maybe are a little bit more anchored into the kind of, to use Arnie Mindell, consensus reality end of things. It's not that I have like, I'm not like an EOS implementer or something like that, but I guess I'm just wondering about that. So in terms of if there's a spectrum of people who kind of are working in the more, we have deliverables and the client is expecting this to turn into dollars, end of things. Just for me to make sure that if I want to make sure if I join, which I'm very interested in, I'm joining in an environment where there might be some other people working at and wrestling with that end of the spectrum.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe I just start and then leave it for others to compliment on this. So I would say yes. I would say that many, if not most, of members in the MI Institute grapple with kind of building the bridges between the MI principles versus the reality in organizations. I myself have worked in such spaces myself. I worked at Boston Consulting as a coach. I work for large companies as a trainer, and there I will be given all sorts of deliverables, and and very often with particular one client, I wondered, there's so much more we could do if there was only a more enabling space to have these ongoing conversations where you might help a client realize that the opportunity beyond what they are asking for is greater. So this is exactly the tension that we want to invite people to work with. Because there are all sorts of scenarios where you might find yourself, for example, you might, for lack of better term, you might regress and say yes to everything the client says, because that's just the reality. And then you may miss out on offering opportunities for the client to grow with you. Or you say, no, I only do it the ID way, and then end up not having a business whatsoever. So what is it that you can explore and learn more about you stepping into that relationship, that ongoing conversation with a client, help deepen those moments of meeting where you can understand and respect and deeper understand the needs of the client, and by thus again expand the possibilities that you might, through an iterative approach, through a smaller testing approach, for example, begin to create evidence and build some assurance and safety for the client to say, you know what, actually, what you're telling me makes a lot of sense. Let's go for it just a little bit more than I had imagined in the beginning. And then how that unfolds is very, very different depending on the context you're working in. Yeah, so you might, in a startup, there might be much less resistance because everyone loves these dynamics and changes compared to a more administrative, bureaucratic organizations where you have all these layers that you need to go through. So how do you build trusting relationships with your client and find someone who aligns with you? I only expect someone working with exactly that challenge coming into the design studio. I grapple with it myself, to be very honest with you. Is that helpful?
Yes, very much. Thank you.
Anyone else to chime in?
I just want to reinforce your comment, make good pronunciation, Kezia, that yes, I think we all want to figure out how to make a living at this and how to improve our financial situations and make this profitable as well as contribute in the way we want to. So that's part of what I heard in your question, and that those pragmatic issues, I think, are certainly things we want to talk about when we're looking at our market and who are we trying to access and who are we trying to influence and who do we want to help and that sort of thing. So absolutely, I see that as a big part of what we're trying to sort through.
And just to add, so this is not going to be a program how to win clients in the market. It really starts with your own sense of self. How am I stepping into that space? How am I situating myself and the client in their story? And what else may be waiting there? And so you can go as deep as you wish and wanted to go. And it can be quite unnerving. I mean, for me, it was very unnerving when I learned about ID in the first place, because it was such a massive paradigm shift in some ways. And I'm still grappling with it years later, to be very honest with you. But I had found this to be quite a profound experience each time I'm confronted with these things, because I'm more aware of kind of where I'm colluding with the client because I'm anxious, I want to win this, or where I'm also sometimes stepping in differently and see, oh, this can take a different turn.
I feel like I'm talking a lot, but I think for me, there's so much inner work to this. So in addition to that part of that pragmatic shift or pragmatic application is how do I grow in my ability to see the financial value of this kind of work? There's a temptation to feel like the soft skills, just they're nice, but they don't really have the value. But yet, I look around and see all of you are interested in some form of growth in this area. And I've seen that over and over again with every other part of the MI community that I've been involved with. And these are also very high level, folks that work with high level folks. I don't mean that in a judgment, but folks that are in high financial areas. So how do we internalize that to the point that we're no longer apologizing for it, nor demanding, nor imposing, but just recognizing this is how we show up, and of course this is valuable, and why wouldn't you see the value of this, as opposed to trying to justify it or make the case for it, or how can we have in sales terms more of an assumptive close that this is valuable.
Good points. Thank you, Kent.
I was thinking as I was listening, it's kind of like I may get the chance to figure out how I'm in the way.
Right.
Right? Like, man, all this out stuff, maybe just I'm in the way of my own realization of what I want.
I like that you mentioned that, Terry. That's been my experience in my growth all the time. How do I get out of my own way so that I can make what happen what needs to happen?
Yeah.
So the program is following the logic of what David calls a structured emergence, meaning we will providing you with frameworks and we will introduce you to the ID way principles, and then you go off and you experiment and get experiences, and we bring it together in the integration session. So David is leading the core, well, for lack of better term, the core teaching module without teaching, but the teaching module, the immersion session, and then you go off and you do your work, and then you come back, and then we integrate, and I will be leading the integration session. Perhaps here and there we may introduce some additional framework that may be fitting what we're discussing. So I'm currently working on a beautiful exercise for the first cycle that builds on the jazz and improvisation metaphor. So and maybe there's something that you can take away and see how that might apply in your context. And just to Anna, you mentioned that you have not gone through one of David's other programs. So what we will do is we will make the core materials available for the IDWay program. And maybe you may need a little bit more time to get yourself acquainted with it, but the material will be made available for you so that you don't feel like you're behind or everyone is talking in the secret language that you don't understand. So yes, you will get that as well, and everyone will get it as well.
I have a question about the narrative coaching program. Is that coming sometime soon? Because I was kind of late to the one that's running right now.
So probably spring 2026. So it's going to be some time. The program is running till December.
Okay,
and then, yeah. But just to go, yeah, I'm sorry, go on.
No, I'm just thinking, like, logistically speaking, I could be done with this one and then.
Yes, yes. There's a healthy break in between. Yes, for sure. Yeah, and just to build on Gordon's point earlier, so for those who follow the MI more closely, you will have noticed that the narrative coaching program is no longer run by David, but that now we have a new faculty taking over. And that also signifies this gradual shift away from teaching to a more community-led environment. And this is also, how we experience. I'm doing this for the first time with David. David has taught the ID way by himself so far. This is a new experience for all of us. And so we want to teach the program in the same principles as to what it is that we're talking about. So iterative, adaptive, co-responsive, co-evolutionary, whatever word you might throw into it. And who knows, maybe we will end up in a quite different place of where we envision it, but hopefully then even more useful for you than we can all imagine right now.
Christopher, I don't know how long this meeting is going or what the ending is, just related to time. But I just wanted to let you know that David's working on an article for this book that we're going to be doing for a conference next year. And I'm writing one of the other chapters, and the chapter focuses on applied improvisation as the key to what coaching is. So I am learning about this. There's actually two of our board members. We're actually going to be doing a conference in 2026 that is based on the unconference of improvisation as opposed to the structured kind of process. So I would love to have conversations with you at some point about what you're learning about that and knowing about that and what I'm exploring too, because I think that
I would love to. Yeah,
that is exciting to me. So.
Wonderful. And yeah, there is all these things keep pollinating each other. We start a narrative coaching, then it's the ID, then it's the conference, and who knows what David will bring from the conference that informs the design studio, and then you will bring all your things into the design studio. So, I know it's a phrase, but I really mean it. We want to co-learn with you and co-grow with you. It is very much an eye-to-eye relationship here. And even though David may be the one who has created all these materials, right, on which I'm building on, it's his foundation, it's his legacy. It's the legacy lives on and continues to evolve.
Yeah, super. Thank you.
Any other questions you might have? Julie, you look very skeptical.
I do. I think it's just.
Or maybe not. I'm sorry. I just.
Just my concentration face.
Yeah, I have the same face.
Actually, Julie, I had a thought of thinking of you also, although I wasn't quite. I guess I was tuning into that too. Is the sense of the question of whether this innovation happens within the context of universities or whether it happens in the context of institutes like the Moment Institute. And I'm inclined to believe that the latter may be the case, that there's more innovation outside the universities right now than in them. And I know David's been saying that as well. And frankly, I've made some choices that have led me in that direction, but I still think there's a lot of value in the partnering with the research component from the university perspective. So, so I'm curious to explore that question with you as well, as terms of where do these programs ultimately sit in what kind of institutional settings? So,
Wow.
It's a good question. Yes.
And what I like about David's work is that it's thoroughly based on research, adult development, anthropology, all sorts of really grounded. And the 5Ms, if you have read the original document, it's quite a tough read, at least for me. I'd like to read academic papers here and there, but it's very dense. So so I can see his work really play a big part in the more academic context. But what I also like is that how it then breaks down to something much more tangible and experiential, and those more nimble environments such as the Institute. It's a great question how to scale that kind of experiential work into a larger university context. Fantastic question.
Applied research.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Having come from the corporate environment, I had the opportunity to be a part of bringing and building an innovation platform into a 100-year-old company. And and you get all that resistance, all of the immune body system responses of the core organization come out to maintain status quo. And yet the work that has lasted the longest and continued to stay that we started was doing investments in startups. So building our own fund to invest in smaller organizations that were trying to disrupt our industry. And so snug up next to some of these young entrepreneurs who are figuring things out or getting, around these edges. And so it's maybe a little bit of both, to kind of, so that's one of the models I bring to thinking about it.
Thank you. That's helpful.
So can I ask a super tactical question? On my schedule, I already know I'm going to miss the first session because I already have a flight that day. So I assume similarly, there'll be like recordings kept of the sessions, the larger sessions to be able to respond back to. And what's the implication of kind of missing one?
So first of all, yes, there are going to be recordings so that you can return to the materials whenever you feel is the right time for you. You may want to revisit some of those recordings maybe a few months down the line because they begin to make different sense now. And if you miss a session, we all have our normal lives. So, that everyone can always join is hard if a program is that long. So we're shortening the program to increase the possibility and likelihood. But yes, what we plan is to pair you up with your pods after the first session. So, and even if you were to miss another call, you will have the opportunity to revisit this. And what I recommend people then to reach out to one of the pod members and ask for a bilateral, and and that gives them the chance to kind of review what they have learned and talk about it and express it, but also build more connections among yourselves. And another thing we really want to, Kent mentioned this. This is supposed to be a much more self-directed learning space. So we want to make best use of the learning environment circle that we use. And so one of the things how we want to help people kind of keep track on what they're working on is that per each cycle, we want to give them a little bit of a space where they're being given some guiding questions, for example, along which they can answer and situate themselves and what they're currently working on, and then post it there. Imagine this kind of your painting in the gallery, and then everyone else can pass by who's enrolled, look at it, and say, "Oh, I really love this," or "Oh, I have a question," and then ask you that question in the community. And then, you know, through that, we want to have kind of a parallel stream of conversations take place beyond the pod, so that you're not limiting to those pods, but also on Circle, where you can see also yourself how your work is progressing along the way. How that works out, though, it really depends on how and who joins and how you all show up and are willing to share. So we will probably spend a little bit more time around talking about, you know, what to do and how to provide feedback so that it's generative and not judgmental or solution oriented, whatever. And if you want someone ask for a solution, then you can do that, of course, as well. But yeah, so
Terry,
all sorts of different streams.
Thank you so much, Terry, for asking that question, because I'm traveling in September.
Yeah.
And indeed, during the integrative session, Maura and I have already talked about I'll be on a flight from Europe. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have all the means to catch up. For sure. I think it happens to almost everyone.
Well, thank you so much. I need to jump off. I've got a meeting coming.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, maybe we can bring this to an end unless you have one more question. Otherwise, feel free to send us a mail, or if you have a specific regarding registration, you know, should you decide to join as a group, let us know. Then maybe, I don't know, I cannot make this decision, but maybe, you know, if you want to join as a group, maybe there's a kind of a group discount we could offer you. Or if you have any other questions, please reach out at any time.
What would the group discount be? Sorry, Christopher, to butt in. What would the group discount be? We can entice some of our
colleagues.
Yeah. So Maura, I understand that you and Julie, you have not gone through any of David's programs yet.
Back in 2021, I think, did the narrative coaching certificate enhanced practitioner.
All right. So then in your case, and I'm sorry to spell this out here in the public, but as a graduate, you are already eligible for a alumni discount, a small one, but you are. So should you all want to join as a group?
The two of us or more, yeah.
Or more, then I can imagine, and again, I cannot make it, but I can imagine that the group discount can be applied to everyone else in your group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you, Gordon, if you join in a larger group, then let us know.
Okay.
Again, I don't want to make any wrong promises here, but I think there's certainly flexibility because we would, and then you can also decide, do you really want to work as a team as you are, or would you like to be paired up with some other folks? You know, there's also flexibility, whatever would work best for you.
Thank you. I gotta go.
Gordon, thank you.
Lovely meeting. Lovely meeting.
Lovely meeting. Yes.
Everyone,
thank you so much for joining.
It's a pleasure. I hope we get to see more of you.
Yes.
Yeah. All right then. Thanks for joining, Terry, as well.
Thank you, Christopher, for so elegantly holding the space for us. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, looking forward to see you all again.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good meeting everyone.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
And Christopher, not skepticism, so it's okay.
It's all good. Okay. Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.